back, everybody, to another episode of Porch Talk. This is episode 3 on our special guest series. This episode is presented to you by Wyatt pole holders. If you have fishing poles that you would like to display safely on the wall or just need a way to get them off the floor, Wyatt pole holders has what you need. Sold on Etsy. It's a nice selection of fishing racks to fit your needs. Pine, oak, and poplar are just some of the wood used to craft these beautiful racks. Engravings are also available upon request. I brought the cutting board that he made for me just so everybody can see. This is some of the wood. I got scuffed up a little bit, but he also does cutting boards, plaques, wedding rings, stuff like that.
If you live in Southwest Virginia, Southern West Virginia, or Eastern Kentucky and find yourself looking for an equipment rental, give Cantrell Holdings Equipment Rentals a call at 276-596-3078. They have excavators, backhoes, loaders, and jackhammers. Any job, big or small, give their Facebook page a like and learn more about their equipment rentals, options, and operator services. Again, that's Cantrell Holdings Equipment Rentals, 276-596-3078.
So on this episode, we are honored to have former coach, now principal of Hurley High School, Greg Tester. Tester, how you doing, man?
Good, man. Good. How you guys doing?
Hey, we're doing good. We're gonna
be on with you guys, man.
Thank you.
I couldn't be on here. I know y'all had Tommy Krieger on here once before, and I know if you got him on here, I got to come sometime, man.
Nah, there you go.
Hey,
yeah, he made sure he was the first.
When we decided we were going to do guests and during football season, you were one of the first ones we had wrote down, and one of the first ones that we actually messaged, and we actually got in touch with you pretty a while back. But once we got into it, we learned that we need to figure some things out first before we have people on, so it took us longer. But we're really glad to have you on here and glad we could make time, and we appreciate it.
We're here, man. We're up and running. Glad to be here.
Yep. So we're going to go through Tester's life from the beginning when he started liking football all the way up and through his coaching or his playing days and his coaching days. So, Coach, just talking on that note, when did you start falling in love with the sport?
Man, really, probably early age, man. My family was, they were football driven. I had a bunch of uncles and stuff. It kind of started, I guess, like a lot of you guys, like in the backyard. I was in the backyard every day playing football with cousins, my uncles, a lot of older guys. Probably 4 or 5 years older than me, kind of like Big Brother roles in the neighborhood there. But I got beat up a lot. So, just far as, but I think a lot of people goes back to them days of, playing in the backyard. And I think that's how it all started for me, really, man. And I think that's where it began, just getting out there and throwing a ball around, man, and playing Saturday football games and just falling in love with it. And, getting roughed up and beat up a lot. And I think it kind of set the foundation. And like I said, I just took it from there. I started playing football probably, I think, the third grade. Started playing in the third grade, man. And just like I said, it was a passion, fell in love with it. And just once my playing days were over, just got into the coaching. Sometimes you got to fill that void. I guess when playing third grade all the way up to high school level, college level, played 2 years in the Arena Football League. And then, when it's finally over, you got that void. You got something missing. So you got to fill that. And, I think coaching's done that. And I think, just being able to coach, I think I was 12, I think I spent 12 years as a head football coach at Hurley. Before that, I think I was 2 years as an assistant first under Coach Wayne Hall. Got through playing arena football back in 2004. He brought me on staff, I think 2004 or 5. And he ended up resigning, I think in 2006. And I took the job in 2006 and was the head coach at Hurley from 2006 to 2017. And then, my older son started, Tyson. He was at Wise Central. He was a freshman, I think, starting the 18 season. So I kind of resigned at Hurley in 2017 to to help him and keep my eye on him, and just to be a parent and sit in the stands. And after his freshman year, Coach Luke Owens over at Central had to call me up and ask me did I want to come and join the staff. And so I helped him out for 3 years and enjoyed my time over there. And we had some good football seasons over there. And just recently took the principal job at Hurley. So, Tyson he's at UVA-Wise now. And, I've kind of stepped back away and started coaching my little one. He's in the little league. So I did that. And just recently this year took the principal job at Hurley. And that's where we are right now.
Yeah. And you can't stay away too much. I'm even helping with the little ones.
Right.
You want to ask me anything more?
I was just while we were on it, in case we forget to come back, talking about your youngest son. He's part of that Running Rebels, ain't the track that doing so good.
Oh yeah, man. That's a really good group at his age group. So I'm trying to get him out there on the track. I'm a big advocate for track. I think speed kills, man, and I think at that age, I think you got to teach kids how to run. You can be fast, but still not know how to run, if you know what I mean. I think teaching kids how to run at that age is key to their development, especially for football.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. I've never seen you see these travel football, baseball, basketball teams. I think you guys are the first real track team I'd ever really seen at that age that went places and out of here, and really even around here I didn't really hear much about it, but definitely the traveling part of it. And y'all were going out of here. So I thought that was really cool.
Like I said, I kind of looked some AAU track up. They have AAU basketball and a bunch of different sports. So I kind of got involved with the track. I knew we got a group of fast kids, a pretty good group of fast kids at Hurley. And I said I want to get them out there a little bit.
Yeah.
And we looked up some track meets, took them. We've been to down. We've been to Ohio, we've been to Cincinnati, we've been to Virginia Beach with them. And just for them to be able to see that different type of athlete, that they might not get to see around here, I think to expose them to that and that kind of competition, I think that's what they need to see at that age.
Mm-hmm.
Like around here in the county and locally, they're faster than most people, but I think you need to show them what's up sometime and take them out places and show them they can be beat. So that's kind of why we do that. A lot of people say, man, why do you take those kids out there, man, with all that talent? I said, well, man, they need to see what's out there also.
Yeah.
It's not all about winning all the time.
Yeah. You was talking about your early on, love for the sport and stuff like that. I know when we had Shane on, he kind of talked about the dynamic of his little league days and, just who he played in the league itself. Who did you all play whenever you was that young? Because I know now Hurley plays, with Twin Valley and Richlands and all of them. But
right, we were. I think it was just it may be county based, man. And we played as Hurley, Van Sant, Hurley, Van Sant, J.M. Bevins, Harmon, and Grunt. And Grunt did 4 or 5 teams. I remember playing against Tommy Krieger and his crew over at Van Sant a lot. They always had really good teams. And but I think it was more county based. And, I think now, it's getting spread out. Like I think in our league now, we just added John Battle and Virginia High and Richlands and Lebanon. It's a little bit more travel and stuff involved now, which I think is good for the kids.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I think, like you said, talking about the competition level, the biggest thing that I took away from travel basketball when we were younger was, first of all, it humbled you because you were almost, you're kind of a big fish in a little pond when you were in Little League here in the county. And it doesn't do anybody any good for you just to win every game and beat everybody by, a bunch of points.
You got to be challenged, and
Yeah, so once you realize it's out there, it makes you work harder knowing that's out there.
Right. So we took, like I said, just going back to the track kids. We took our kids to Virginia Beach. It was the AAU Nationals. There's probably I can't remember if it was the 11 and 12-year-old division, 10 and 11-year-old division, but there's like 100 kids in the division from nationwide. And I think we had 2 or 3 kids that placed in the top 20, just,
right.
Coming out of Hurley. So like I said, it's a really good group, fast group of kids. And like I said, I'm just trying to get them out there and trying to get them faster and trying to get them better.
Well, speaking of fast kids, were you always fast, even at younger age, playing football, or did that come once you started hitting the weights, or you just naturally fast?
You know, at that age, I think I had a little bit of wheels on me. You know, so I think my younger one at this age right now had a step on me though. I think Zane, my younger kid, he's got some wheels on him, and like I said, I think it just come naturally, man. I don't know. You know, I'd always been kind of fast in Little League, you know, but when I got up to the JV varsity level and started hitting the weight room and seen the importance of what it meant to hit the weight room and do squats, and I think it developed a little bit more from there.
You know, you mentioned JV and going in varsity and stuff. You know, what was that kind of like over in Hurley at that time? Because I know things have changed from then to now. Was it a big football school then? I know after you started coaching, it became one. But I didn't know how it was back at that time.
Somewhat, you know, my early years at Hurley, I think 10th grade year, 9th and 10th grade year. Well, actually, as a freshman, I was at Grundy.
Okay.
I'd actually transferred to Grundy to wrestle. And Hurley had started the program actually Grundy had started the program at Hurley, you know, just like they did at Garden over there. And I ended up leaving Hurley in the 8th grade and holding back over at Grundy in the 8th grade and stayed over there a year and a half, 2 years. And then I transferred back to Hurley. But I was just more of a, and I was, you know, I enjoyed the wrestling and stuff, but to me at that time, I was kind of a small kid weighing 130 pounds and trying to cut weight. And, you know, the things you got to do for wrestling, it contradicted what I was trying to do for football. You know, and football was my love. I was trying to get big, strong, and faster. And here, when we was wrestling, I said, man, what am I doing? I'm sitting here weighing 130 pounds and I'm trying to get down to wrestle 112. So it just didn't, it contradicted what I was in love with. So I ended up transferring back to Hurley and playing my sophomore, junior, and senior years at Hurley. I think my sophomore year, we may have been 6-4, junior year, 4-6 at Hurley. And my senior year, I think we were 7-3, and we lost we beat Hayside in the first round of the playoffs. Actually, Hayside beat us in the district championship 7-6. And we rematched them in the first round and beat them in the playoffs 18-6. And then we went on to see Julius Jones and the Powell Valley Vikings in the regional championship, and it didn't go so well. You know, so
here's your prize.
They had a really good squad. I think they ended up. They might have went to the state championship and lost that year. I'm not really sure, but I know they went state semifinals or better. So that was in 1996. So they beat us pretty good that day, though. So, but it was an experience to play against, and I think he was a sophomore at that time, and everybody knew he was going to be special, and we got to see that up close and personal.
Yeah.
Going back to your 8th grade, I guess did you play? How was it back then? Was it an 8th grade playing JV at Hurley, or was it just an 8th grade team?
Well, now when I transferred
you was at Grundy, right? I guess. Sorry about that. Yeah.
Yeah, my first 8th grade year was at Hurley. We played a JV schedule at Hurley. I can't remember who we played. It was, you know, it was mostly local. But then I know when I went to Grundy, I think Grundy had an 8th grade team. I held back. Grundy had an 8th grade team and a JV team. So, but we traveled. Now we had a really good team that year when I went to Grundy. It was, you know, I played with Luke Owens. I think Krieger may have moved up. I mean, he may have been a year ahead of me. He may have been on the JV part or the varsity part. But I know we had Luke Owens, David Scammell, Jason Copenhaver. It was a good group of players, and really, I think, you know, we may have went. I don't even know if we lost. We may have lost one game, but we played the Grahams, the Tazzles, the Richlandses. So I think we went 8-1, 9-1, or something like that with that 8th grade group that year.
You know, going to your varsity, who was coaching back then, and how was that? You know, going into varsity, I know Coach Krieger talked about how he got up there and kind of Coach Rowe gave him a chance, and he was able to seize that, and from the rest is history. So kind of wondering about how that worked out for you.
Wayne Hall was my head football coach, and Wayne's from Garden area, or y'all know Wayne pretty good. He played at Garden and played at Emory and Henry. Really good football player, really good coach. He was one of those guys. He was an old school guy, really intense. My sophomore year when I come over here, I was still kind of a little guy. I was more of a slot back type of guy. And, we had some good kids at Hurley at that time that was in the backfield with us. And I was probably 140 pounds, 130 pounds. So I played the slot actually my sophomore year. And I think we went 6-4 that year in my sophomore year. And I don't think we made the playoffs. But I knew I had some growing to do, and the weight room was big for me. Starting my sophomore, junior year, I had to hit the weight room pretty hard. And the time I got to be a senior, I was about 185, I think, at that time. So I couldn't have played at the level I played at without the weight room. I mean, it's something I had to do because I was just naturally small. So I kind of, I made that a priority, and that's what kids these days don't know how important the weight room is. And like I said, I would have never been able to play probably at the high school level or at the college level without hitting the weight room the way I did.
Well, on that same note, going into your senior season, because you've already established that you had some work to do, you got in the weight room. I feel like you, at least based on what I can see, the senior season kind of put it all together. Kind of had a magical year there. From what I looked up, about 2,042 rushing yards your senior season, and you was one of the top running backs in the state. So kind of, how was that senior season for you? Did you know that kind of like you had it all together then, and you just ready to take off?
I did. I was pretty disciplined. Trying to. I knew we had a good football team coming into my senior year, and I had played with a good group, man. Offensive line I had was great. We had. I don't know if you guys know that we have Billy Wyatt, Anthony Stiltner, Derek Potter. Yeah. Those guys, Truett Blankenship, those guys were pretty good. And we had Chris Baker, played fullback for me. He was a man child playing fullback. And I think we ended up 7-3 that year. That's the year we lost to Hayside actually, and we were the district favorites that year. Yeah. But Collie got us, man. He as he always does. He got us. He got us over at the Cliff 7-6, and we got to rematch him in the first round and won the game 18-6. Like I said, went on to play Powell Valley, but that was a good year, man. It really was. And I'd worked super hard up to then. I still wasn't a big guy. I was 185 pounds. But I was only 5'7". So, but anyway, it was a great year for us, and wish we could have went further. But you got teams out there like the Powell Valley Vikings and stuff. That's a tough job.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of like, I mean, you want to make it that far, obviously, but running into a team like that, it's almost, I don't want to say unfair, but it's terrible luck to, like, you make it to a regional game, and then you have that juggernaut waiting on you instead of any other year. It might match up with somebody better, but I guess back then everybody was kind of dealing with.
It's all about matchups, man. It really is. Anywhere you go, you've played basketball at the state level, and like I said, it's all about matchups, and that wasn't a good matchup for us all the way around. The number of the kids they had and number of athletes they had, and the size of schools they were compared to us. We were both single A, but still, they had a lot more kids in their program, and just that tradition that they have over there, man. Just it was just awesome to go to Bullitt Park and to get a chance to play in a regional title game over
there. Did you play? I'm assuming as being like athlete as you were, did you on defense much?
I did. I played outside linebacker. Man, I love defense. Coach rested me some. a lot during my senior season. I'd play a series or two, and then it just depended on what we needed, and if we were up a couple touchdowns and, he was going to ride me, give me 20, 25 carries, he would rest me a lot on defense. But, I enjoyed defense. I probably enjoyed defense better than I did offense.
Yeah.
But, there's some times that he did rest me, though.
Because, I would imagine having that weapon, you want to have you out there on defense, but at the same time, you're, relying on you in a backfield, so you can't really.
There wasn't much. We lined up in I formation. There wasn't much of this spread stuff, as there is today back then, and we wasn't throwing the ball 20 or 30 times a game, and so we were lining up coming at you every play. So and most teams around Southwest Virginia was that way too. So, but we were mostly I formation, split back team, and just hammered away at people. And like I said, my senior year, we had a good offensive line, and we had two good running backs. Actually, had three good running backs in our backfield. We had me, Chris Baker, and actually Michael Davis. All three of us was pretty good. So, and Denny Dillo was our quarterback at that year. So, it was a good year for us. But like I said, defensively, he did rest me some, but we was fortunate to make it, as far as we did.
So, we kind of talked about how great of a year that was for you. So recruiting wise, going into college, did it start early? Did people start trying to get in contact with you kind of early that season? Was it all kind of after the season building up?
It was kind of afterwards, a lot of people ask me about the Miami deal, and stuff. Clinch Valley and Emory was probably my two biggest, recruiting, teams that were talking to me. Not a lot of interest from, big schools. I wasn't a big guy, I didn't fit that, I didn't fit that 220, 6'2" pound, that frame. And so, I always wanted to play at Virginia Tech. I wanted to walk on, didn't get a chance to do that. I didn't get invited the summer that I graduated. I got invited to come in on spring ball at Virginia Tech. So I got invited as a walk-on at Virginia Tech to come in the spring, not in the summer. So I didn't really want to wait it out. But I got a call one day from actually, I think it was Coach Hall got the call. I thought he was BSing, but what had happened, I don't know if you know about Mate One, West Virginia. Mate One was a powerhouse when we played. We lost as a team. We lost to my senior year. Actually, they were. I think they went to the state championship and lost also. So we go down and play Mate One. I kind of left that out of the story. We go down and play Mate One down in Mate One down in West Virginia, and I think we lose the game 28-14. But they were really good. Had a bunch of D1. Well, I ain't gonna say a bunch. They had 2 or 3 D1 kids that were getting recruited to D1 level from West Virginia, Marshall, and apparently the University of Miami. So they had, I guess they had seen the film of Mate One.
Yeah.
I guess Mate One had seen them film of their play. I'm not for sure how it all worked out, but he called my coach and was like, was asking questions, and I guess it was one of them situations where he probably thought he was getting punked. You know what I'm saying? And so he come to me and told me that they called, and I was just, still kind of in disbelief. And I said, "You're crazy." So anyway, the guy gave me a call at home that night. Said he wanted me to walk on at the University of Miami. He said they seen film from Mate One. And I was like, he said, we want you to walk on. It only costs like $30,000 or $40,000 to walk on at University of Miami. So it's a private school. And I said, you're crazy. I said, I can't do that. And so, well, we'll get back with you. We'll see what we can work out with you at the financial aid office. So this was at the time that they were on their probation. They were on their scholarship probation after who was the guy that was there? Eric, it was before Butch Davis. The guy before Butch Davis got them in the trouble. They were on probation.
Yeah. Can't remember his name.
It was in the early 90s. Yeah. I forget his name. But anyway, Butch Davis was the one that came in, and he was the head coach, I guess, when the recruiting guy called. And so anyway, to make a long story short, he said, you want to walk on? I was like, man, I can't afford to walk on down there at 30, whatever it was, where it's a private school. It was like 30-some thousand at the time. I'm sure it's way higher than that now. But he said, well, we'll see what we can do at the financial aid office for you. Like I said, it was at the time they had limited scholarships. I don't know how they done it at the time, but he called me back and he said, if I'm not mistaken, how's 28,000 out of 30? And I was like,
pretty good.
So I was like, oh,
yeah.
So I, being at 17 years old, you get that, and he's like, wow, man, do I need to pass it up? Do I need to go? Or like I said, my dream was to go to Virginia Tech, but they didn't invite me until the spring. I said, I don't want to wait to spring. But then I had Wise and Emory that I talked to, nothing major. Mm-hmm. And so I decided, when they throw that out there, financial aid, I got 28. When I was still considered a walk-on, even though they worked out $28,000 worth of money. So I said, okay, that's fine with me. So when I went down there, I actually said, okay, I'm going to try this out. So we go in. So that's the year Santana Moss came in. Actually, Santana Moss was on a track scholarship. So that's how they, he was a football guy, but he got a track scholarship, I guess, where they was on the probation to save the football scholarship. They was probably cut from 80 scholarships to 50 or 60 at the time. Mm-hmm. So, but they was working out some deals for a lot of guys down there to get guys down there. But I came in with Santana Moss, Reggie Wayne, Dan Morgan. Mm-hmm. That was the recruiting class. The class that I came in with, probably 30 of them came in. I'd say 15 of them went to the league.
Wow.
Trying to think, Reggie Wayne, Santana Moss, Dan Morgan was a freshman when I came in down there. Dan Morgan came in actually as a fullback. They moved him to linebacker. So, I tried it out, went down, and just as a culture shock for me, man, you can imagine. Going from Hurley to Miami, and when your mama sets you out down there and she takes off and it gets real. So, but like I said, it was an experience. And I was down there, what long, 2 months, maybe somewhere through there. I went through camp, and maybe before school started, I'd still been in contact when I was down there in camp with some, just homesick, man. I was really homesick at the time. Like I said, 17 years old. Edrin James was, when the freshmen came in, Edrin James was their coach, or he was our running back coach. So they had some of the upperclassmen there coaching us during the time. So Edrin was there. He was a second string back at the time, but he won the job that year. I can't remember who the first, maybe Trent Jones or something like that. That guy transferred to UCF or USF, one of them two. But anyway, Edrin ended up being the guy, and he was a sophomore that year. But you just talking about a stacked running back room and a stacked team, and just like I said, I didn't know it at the time, but that class that I came in with, that was probably one of the best classes ever in Miami. With Reggie Wayne and Santana Moss and Dan Morgan, and there was some other Martin Bibla, which was a lineman. He played in the league. Martin Bibla. There was a couple guys in that room. But anyway, man, it was a homesick for me, just and I wanted to get back closer to home, so I came back. I still I didn't know if I was going back to Clinch Valley or going to wait on Tech at that next semester. So I went to Tech, and actually so I started that spring at Tech, and actually was loving it. Went through the whole ordeal, spring ball, summer ball. I don't know, I may have been third on the depth chart, somewhere through there one time. I don't know. So I was, hoping to go try to get on a special team or two that first year, but they called me back Coach Wiles, Charlie Wiles, I'm sure y'all know Charlie Wiles. Jeremiah, I know he's at NC State now. He used to recruit our area,
Name
and he kind of
sounds
stayed in
familiar.
touch with me when I came home from Miami and got me up there. But anyway, during that time, thought everything was going to be good. I was going to be eligible, where I didn't really see it. I was down in Miami maybe a month or two, but I didn't really start classes. So I thought I was going to be eligible when I came back to Tech. So I got called in at the end of the spring ball. And when they have their end of meeting with you, just told me that, that I wasn't going to be eligible because I went to Miami and I transferred laterally, where it's, I guess, I thought I was going to be. That was the understanding I had, but they said it's not going to matter for you because you're really not going to play this year anyway, but we want you to take a redshirt year also. So my dream, I was wanting to get on special teams. That was my goal, to get on special teams that year. I was doing really good, had a good spring.
Yeah.
Like I said, I think I was third on the depth chart at that time. Hopefully was trying to make the travel team, trying to get on a special team. But when they told me that, I was like, I kind of had the feeling, like here's another year I'm going to sit out and I'm going to lose that year. So I had 3 years left if I lost that. So that's what started playing back in my mind. So I got thinking about coming back down to Wise, and I didn't want to lose a year, so I ended up transferring back down to Wise in 1998. And when I transferred, I had 4 years of eligibility left if I transferred there. If I stayed at Tech, I just had 3. So where I went to Miami, it kind of messed me up on that deal. But I love Virginia Tech, man. It was good. I loved the atmosphere. I loved the coaches. They were down to earth. Just Coach Wiles up there, Bud Foster, all those guys, and Coach Beamer, and really wanted to stay there, but I didn't want to lose a year either. So ended up transferring to Wise, and make a long story short, end up starting my freshman year at Wise, and so had a pretty good career at Wise, and started 4 years for them. So
that's talking about Wise. That's kind of what I was going to go into. We were all very interested in the Miami and Tech story, as well. I'm sure most people are. Just to kind of let everybody know, a little bit about your career at Wise, and you can correct me if I'm wrong on any of this, because I tried to do the minimal research I can with a full-time job and working. But so from your career at Wise, from what I had down, you had 3,916 all-purpose yards, which is 4th all-time at Wise. Average 206.1 all-purpose yards per game, a record that still stands. Ranked 2nd all-time, 139 rushing yards per game, and 4th all-time at Wise in career rushing touchdowns of 27. So you had a pretty impressive career there. And I know that, of course, led into you getting inducted to the Hall of Fame there, which we do want to get to here in a minute. But just the dynamic, I know you went to Miami and Tech and got to play a little bit there in the practice and all that. But just the dynamic from your high school to playing at Wise or any of the colleges, how big of a jump was that?
You mean from college to college?
Well, I mean, just from, even that too. I know Coach Krieger talked to us about just how big of a difference it was for him when he was at Grundy, jumping from Grundy, the level of play at high school, to then going into college. But you're in a unique situation because you can also tell us that, but also tell us just the jump between Miami Tech to, Wise.
Oh, yeah. Well, man, like, of course, going from high school, any kind of, I don't care what college level you're on, whether it's D3, D2, D1, the play, the level of the play is so much faster. The game's so much faster. When I got down, I'll just jump into Miami real quick. You get down there, and you're lined up beside, you're out. When I was in high school, I was used to outrunning everybody in track and on the football field, and you get down there and Santana Moss is lined up beside of you and you're doing suicides with him and he's finishing and you're not halfway done. We're just doing gassers and suicides, and I mean he's just playing around with us, and it's just a different level of speed and as far as the physicality, it's Miami Tech, UVA-Wise. The physicality is not that much different, but now the speed level at the Division I coming down to the Division II levels, especially with the defensive backs and those skill positions, is a big difference. But when I came from down from Tech, going through spring ball at Tech, coming down to Wise now. Now, this is not a knock on anything. I think there was players at Wise that could play D1. When I came down to Wise, I said, man, what's this guy doing here? Or, this guy looked like he was better than the guy at Tech. What's this guy? I think it's all about opportunity also, man. I think a lot of people slips through the cracks but no matter what level, college level, there's players there. I don't care what level it is. And you still got to fight for a position, and you got to fight for a position every day. But, when I came down to from Tech to UVA-Wise, like I said, the physicality of the game wasn't a big difference. The thing that I noticed the difference was in the speed of the defensive backs, and the wide receivers. That's where I noticed the big difference at. When you broke through the line a little bit, if you was at the D1 level, those DBs and safeties was up there, 1 and 2 yards from the line of scrimmage, like linebackers. It's a little bit different, at UVA-Wise, but it's not a knock on them. And I seen guys at UVA-Wise that I thought could have played at Virginia Tech. My fullback that was at Wise, Larry Oliver, he was a man child, and I would actually say he could have started at Virginia Tech at some point in his career. But he played in a high school at George Washington, G.W. Danville. On his high school team, he had 5 players go to the NFL on his same team. Wow. So I think he was one that kind of slipped through the cracks, and he really wasn't even recruited. So, like when I got to Wise, when I was competing for a starting tailback, he was a starting fullback at the time. And so I came in and was competing for the running back job, and I was like, man, who is this fullback? And, I'm glad I'm playing tailback.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm beating this guy out.
Yeah.
So, but like I said, but there's athletes, like I said, at every level. And like I said, there was a couple athletes I thought I seen at Wise that could have played at the next level. But sometimes it's all about opportunity, man. And I think that's a big thing. But enjoyed my days at Wise, man, and just being able to compete and start for 4 years was, I played both positions. I played tailback and I played fullback. Actually, get in that situation. I was just talking about Larry. I came in as a freshman, and at the end of 2 days, I kind of was going to talk on this a little bit at my induction, but Larry didn't get to make it. He had other obligations. So, but anyway, running back coach called me back after about 2 weeks into camp my freshman year, and he kind of told me where I stood and told me I was going to be probably playing a lot. Didn't tell me I was going to start or anything. He just said, you're going to help us out a lot, and I think you're going to play a lot this year. But he said, I want you to start taking some reps at fullback also. And, I was probably 205, 210 at that time, 5'8". And I said, okay. I didn't really know where he was going with it, but I knew what kind of fullback we had. So then he looked at me and said, well, we don't really – he told me this in private. He said, we don't really have another fullback in case Larry goes down, that we trust or whatnot. So I said, okay, all right, I'll take some reps. So we set a scrimmage the next day, an inter-squad scrimmage, and I was at running back, and then Larry, he was at fullback the first series, and he said, all right, Tester, you go to fullback. Larry, step out a second, So Larry kind of looked at me, he looked at me all funny and stuff. So anyway, I went a series at fullback, and Larry came back in that next series, and I didn't know him at the time. He was really quiet, humble dude, big dude, like 230, bench 400 pound, run the 4.6. So he got back in that second series, and they give him the ball, and he run over like 5 players for about a 50-yard touchdown. Just run over like 5 of them. So he come back to the huddle, man, and he was kind of swelled up, nostrils flaring and stuff. I said, man, what's up? He said, you ain't taking my job. So I said, man, ain't nobody trying to take your job. But like he was one of the players, man, that I thought that while I was there, I shared a backfield with him for 3 years that I think he could have played definitely at the next level. So
still a big guy. That's nice. I mean, it's been years since I've seen him. Yeah, I played against his son. Whenever I was playing. So yeah, it was big then. That's been a few years, but
right.
Yeah, the last time I remember seeing him look more like a linebacker than a fullback.
Yeah. Well, I think he played linebacker at GW Danville. I don't even think he played. Yeah. He might have played a little bit. They run a wishbone or something. He might have played a little bit of the tailback. But now they was actually tell you how good their team was. They played. You remember Grundy, and I'm sure Krieger told you the story of them going to Amherst and playing Amherst, right?
Yeah.
In the state semifinals, and how good Amherst was. They had a couple of D1 players, Cam Jackson, and because I was up at Tech with Cam when he was up there. And can't remember another defensive lineman they had was also at Tech. They was talking about how good Amherst was the year that Krieger went to the state semifinals. They beat Grundy pretty good. Well, that GW team that Larry was on beat that team like 54-6. But GW was AAA at the time, and Amherst was 2A. So that's why and I know how good Grundy was at that time. So and that just that puts it in perspective. What kind of team he came from. But he said he had 5 NFL players, I think, on his team that actually made it to the league. They might not. I think they may have been released or something. But he told me there was 4 or 5 of them that went to the league from his high school football team.
Still very impressive.
So
there's different levels to it too. Like you said, different, AAA and AA.
Speaking of transitioning from high school to college, I know we didn't talk about this with Tommy when he was on, but he's told me before. Just we've been hanging out, but the difference in not only the physicality and the speed, but for him especially, I guess as a quarterback, so it might have been a little different for you at running back, but just the play calling, the length of a play. And he would go over like one name off one play that you'd have to. It'd be like a whole. I mean, it was ridiculous how long this one play was, and that for me would be one of the harder things, just memorizing every single thing. That's because you don't come from that in high school, as much.
Right. I got to give him. And when I went to Wise, my running back coach, he kind of kept me back a lot. My first 2 or 3 weeks, making sure I was getting the offense and getting everything down. And, it was a stressful time. I'd done been to 2 schools and competing for a job and going through 3-day practices and staying back and trying to learn the playbook and stuff. But credit to him, he stayed back with me and made sure I had I think they realized I was going to play some, and he made sure I had the playbook down. But yeah, the play call was, 1I, 111, Z come back, and it keeps going. But out of that play call, man, you really probably only have to listen to one part of that play call that only talks to you. So like the rest of that sentence, you won't even have to pay attention to, because that's for a line call or a receiving call or something like that. But now for a quarterback, that'd be hard to keep up with.
Yeah, he rattled some plays off one time for me, just off memory, and I was like, literally sounds like you're reading something off, off Madden, something crazy. You read it when you're playing like a PlayStation, but when you're growing up, but like then to hear somebody actually read one off, it's like it's foreign language almost, hearing all that.
Yeah, like an example of her play call would probably be 1I, 285, X comeback, Y drag, or that would be so my part, I only had to listen to the I and the 285. None of that other stuff, pertained to me.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, just in transitioning, me going from high school to the college level, I could outrun a lot of people in high school, and I kind of had to change my style a little bit, because you had to get north and south at the college level, and I could hit it up in there, and in the high school level and outrun some DBs or some linebackers. Couldn't hardly do that at the college level. You had to we're designing the play. You had to get up in there and get north and south. And if you had to get 4 yards, you had to get 4 yards. You wasn't going to bounce it out and get 4 yards. It's either you're going to get it up in 4 yards or you're going to take a 2-yard loss. So like you had those guys coming up on the edge pretty quick, and you had to be able to adjust to that. I was more of a tailback in high school. When I got in college, I ran more north and south, more like a fullback, but I had to, at that level, because that's what they look for. They, if you're trying to hit that sideline every time, you won't be in there much.
Kind of wrap up your career at Wise. In 2001, I had wrote down here that you was candidate for the NAIA Player of the Year, and I kind of want to ask you about that, and also kind of just looking back on it as a whole, being inducted in the Hall of Fame, also what that meant to you as well.
Oh man, that's like I told at my speech the other day. When I got the letter, I went on vacation this summer, and I got the letter. I come home, and it was on a Sunday. So I'm gonna check the mail. We ain't been here all week, so I got a letter. Opened the letter up from UVA-Wise. Thought it was the usual, make a gift or make a donation, whatnot. I read it again, and I looked at my wife and I said, read this. I said, is that saying the same thing I think it's saying? And she kind of read it, and she didn't believe it herself. She goes, I don't know, but you better call and check on that on Monday.
Oh, yeah.
So I said, oh, gee, thanks, honey. But I actually, man, I was, like I said, I was just overwhelmed with happiness and just, shocked and just humbled about it. But, I had some great teammates at Wise and some great coaches. And, the offensive line I had, at Wise, and I spoke about them in my speech, they were dominant. Like mine and Larry's running style, you had to be really good up front the way we ran, because we were lining up, we were coming north and south, and we were getting after you. And that's a testament to those guys. Everybody in the stadium knew where it was going. We were an I formation team, or we were a split back team. We run a spread a little bit during those days, but it was mostly I formation, and the whole stadium knew where it was going. And we had, it was mostly local boys on the line, which, I think they're getting away from that now. We had Chris Rasnick from Richlands, had Jason Edwards from Hayside, Paul Payne from Clintwood. We had Jason Smith was one of the ones. He was from Richmond area on my offensive line. And most of those guys were with me all 4 years. So at Wise, and those guys were really good, and was a big reason that I was able to stand up there on that podium last Saturday. So, and not to forget Larry Oliver, my fullback, how dominant he was. And, you, Jeremiah, or whoever could have lined up back there and had impressive numbers, behind those guys.
I don't know about me. Cam might could have got a little scat.
I remember Cameron a little scat back. He was hard to find and hard to tackle.
Hey, if you just grabbed me, I was going down. I only weighed like 100 pounds. So,
I was gonna say, congratulations again on that. That's really cool. I don't know. I guess it was obviously it was kind of come as a surprise. I guess just receiving the news, but it had to be really cool with your son still being on a team there, getting inducted while he's still playing. That had to be really cool.
It was a special moment for us. He came over to the ceremony before he had to go back to meetings. So, but like I said, it was an honor, and just specifically, especially with him being there and being a sophomore, being on the team, and it was a special moment.
Yeah.
So, like I said, all of my time at Wise, man, it was, and I'm glad I got there. I'm glad I came down to Wise. Everybody wants to play D1, and everybody wants to me, it's, I was excited. I was just a Virginia Tech fan, period. And I love the program, but, it's not all about, D1 or bust, how these people are now. If you can get a good education, play football, it's all about that education, man. And, and just enjoying your time with the teammates and the bonds and relationships you create during those years. That's what's special about
it. Who was y'all's coach at Wise then when you were playing?
Bill Ramsire. I think he passed away 2 years ago.
Had he been there pretty good? I'm not
He
familiar
started
with
the program, and
really?
he's one of my all-time favorites. Coach Ramsauer was he was a disciplinarian. He wasn't a rah coach. He was just a coach that, when he's around, you respect him. And he was I just appreciate him so much from, when I became a coach. I didn't really know it at the time, but I seen what he took with his limited resources, and I seen what he done. And at the time I was playing, I didn't really think about it. And I spoke about this at my ceremony also. He started the program in 91 as an NAIA level. 95 and 96, I was in high school at this time. I remember I was watching them. This is when they was recruiting me. He took them, and they were nationally ranked in 95 and 96. And they went 10-0, I think, 2 seasons. So I came along in 98, and he was trying to transition to the D2 process. We were in NAIA. He was trying to transition up to D2, and he was winning all those games at the NAIA level. So during my time there, we were limited with scholarships. We were limited with resources. First year there, we were playing at J.J. Kelly. And, the guys he was able to get in there with limited resources. And when we were playing the Division II schedule, we played the teams in the SAC 8. We played the Mars Hills. We played the Presbyterian College. We played the SAC 8 teams. We played Concord, played West Liberty, played Austin Peay, which was Division I. Now, this is saying we were still NAIA. We were playing these schools that were in Division II, and we were playing Austin Peay, which was Division I, AA or whatnot. We were going 7-3 at that time. He was winning most of those games. So, and never in those games did we go in thinking we were an underdog. I didn't know it at the time. I didn't know these teams we were playing had 32 full scholarships, and we were sitting over here with 8. But he had us competing at a high level, and we were never the underdog. We were supposed to win that game, and we actually believed that when we went into the games. But now I sit back and I look what this guy did with limited resources. All those facilities over at Wise right now, they wouldn't be there without him. And just to do what he did with those resources is unbelievable. Now you'll have some may have a different opinion, but I mean, proof's in the pudding. So
yeah.
I think Coach Wasson, he retired my senior year. After my senior year, Coach Ramsauer, he had retired, and I think Coach Wasson and Coach Wasson actually won a conference championship. He was our defense coordinator. He took over maybe around 2004, 6. He might have took over after 2002. Wasson took over, and I think in 2007 he won a conference championship in NAIA. That's when they had the good quarterback over there, Randy Hippard, and those guys. But like I said, what he did over there, I thought was phenomenal. Just starting the program and getting it playing at the level it was playing at, and he did it with local guys. He had 50% local guys, and he had 50% non-local guys. So he knew how to recruit. He knew what guys. If there was guys in Southwest Virginia, I think he went and got them. And I know football made. I'm not. There's still guys here that can play. I know that, and it may not be as good as it once was, but you can still find guys around in Southwest Virginia to play. And I think they're getting away from that. And I'm not saying the guys there, the guys out here can't, but I think they're getting away from local guys, and I think they got to get back to that. As I just mentioned, I think my whole offensive line was local, but one guy. And for some reason, I just think they got to do a better job of getting in these schools around here.
I think that's awesome. I didn't know that you had the whole 50-50 split back then. And so I think that's cool because you don't, like you said, you don't really see that now as much. And it's not just in that school. I think it's other colleges as well.
Right.
Seems like something of the past. before we go into your coaching career, which I know we're all very interested in too, like you mentioned earlier, you spent some time in the Arena Football League.
Oh yeah,
I had down here Myrtle Beach Stingrays.
right.
Kind of wanted to ask you about that, how you got into that, and then what you thought about that. Because I mean, if nobody's watched Arena Football, you need to,
Right.
because it's a fun sport.
Actually, I went to after my senior year, we went to a combine, maybe in Columbus, Ohio, where we worked out in front of a bunch of scouts and stuff, and um, it was a couple of weeks after that. I graduated and still looking to play a little bit, so we went to a combine and ran a 40 and did a bench press, all that stuff, and did some on the field drills, and just got a call from this coach or this agent, couldn't really remember, said they was having a tryout. Said they seen they was up at the combine or something. They was having a tryout in Myrtle Beach. Wanted to invite me down to a tryout. So, I loaded up and went, and heck, it's in Myrtle Beach. And I said that, this will be awesome.
Yeah.
It works out. So, went down to Myrtle Beach. Actually, it was at Myrtle Beach High School. We went down, ran a 40. Like I said, did some on the field drills. So, after that day, about a week later, got a call and said, "Hey, we're going to bring you into camp." That's all they said, is going to bring you into camp. I said, "Okay, all right." So I went down there, and a lot of big name guys down there, and it was mostly, coming from D1 guys coming back down and stuff. And as far as the running back room, it was probably me, a guy named Rusty Williams from Auburn, not Cadillac.
Wow.
This guy, 1997, Rusty Williams was the Auburn MVP. He was coming in as a tailback. Guy from Wake Forest, which was John Lewis was his name, played at Wake Forest, and a guy from Appy State, and then me from Wise was like the 4 running backs. So I'm going through camp. They're having cuts and stuff after this 2-week period. I hadn't had a rep yet, and so my stuff was still packed. So I didn't even empty my stuff over there. It was still packed in my bag. So I just dig in my bag whenever I needed some clothes out. So I didn't ever unpack anything. So I wasn't getting any reps. So it was about coming up time. They were having a couple scrimmages. We were full pads, and 2 or 3 days they were getting ready to make cuts. I'm not even getting a rep, so I done knew I was gone. So we had this guy named Jimmy Dunn was our head football coach down there, and he had this guy named Ray Isaac was our offensive coordinator. And so I didn't get any reps. So Ray Isaac, our offensive coordinator, come maybe on a Thursday. They were maybe the second weekend, third weekend. He come and knocked on my door, and he said, "Can I talk to you a minute?" So he closed the suite door beside of me, guys over there just being loud. So he closed that. He sat down on the couch, and he kind of took a deep breath. And I said, "I need to get my bags, Coach." He just kind of shook his head no. I'm like, "What?" He said, "Coach Dunn likes you." He said, "He told me to get you more involved." I said, "Okay, well." So anyway, those guys that I mentioned, though, like the Auburn guy and the Wake Forest guy, they were set in stone. It wasn't, they were there. Nobody really knew about Virginia-Wise or UVA-Wise. So, he came around, and after he told me that, I got a few more reps next. They want you to be able to play 2 ways in the Arena League. They said, "I want you to go over and get some strong safety, and you take some reps at tailback tomorrow." So, actually, this was a National Indoor Football League. They ran the ball a lot more than the original Arena League. So, with that crazy motion and all that stuff. But I said, "Okay." So you come up full pads, and it was like the last scrimmage before cut day. And so I got into practice, and they called a little draw play. And I actually busted the draw for about 15, 20 yards, dipped a shoulder on a little DB, and got a 20, 25 yard gain out of it or something like that. And they was behind me, and one of the head coaches said, I heard him. He said, run the same play to the other side. So they did it. About the same thing happened, ripped off one for about 10 or 15 yards, and they just kind of, said, okay, so still didn't know what was going on. So next day I seen them cutting, called the guy in from Appy State, and I think cut him. So I was still sitting there, didn't know what was going on. So he come by, I can't remember, he come by my room, told me I was safe. So I went into the season. He came by my room after that. They cut that guy and told me I was safe. They moved the Wake Forest guy to wide receiver. So it was Auburn guy was the starting tailback, and I was the backup going into the first game. So didn't get to play much the first game. I remember in the Arena League. The second game, the Arena League is, it's only 28 yards wide.
Yeah.
Or yeah, I believe that's what it is. But anyway, it's narrow, so you got to really, when you got to hit it north and south. You really ain't got a lot of room. So he gave me in the second game, he gave me a rep or two. I don't know if something was going on with the other guy or something happened. So he put me in there. Actually, first carry, had a 15-yard carry. He run the same play on my second carry. End up scoring a touchdown on the second carry. So going into the next game, they moved the Auburn guy to defensive back, and I was starting. So I started that year. But so man, I learned a lot about the business side of football at that time. You're just it's all about business, and actually, so I started the rest of the season, but they brought a bigger back in, probably a 250-pound back. So if I didn't score from 20 to 25 yards out, I wasn't getting the ball once we got inside the 5 because I was coming out. They brought a big back in. And anyway, make a long story short, we finished that year. I had a good season that year. We went 7-7, I think, at Myrtle Beach. So the next year, we hadn't decided if they were bringing everybody back or what. So they was even getting bigger, I guess, and everybody, loved to be in Myrtle Beach, and that was what drawed everyone there. So, you get you're down there playing football and you're done for the day at 12 o'clock in the day in Myrtle Beach, so you practice, we're practicing from 10 to 12 and we're finished. You could get a job if you want to, but who's going to go get a job in Myrtle Beach? But anyway, as far as, money wise, it wasn't a great deal of money. It wasn't really about the money, but the housing, utilities, all that stuff they took care of, the food they took care of, and you made anywhere from $500 a game, anywhere from $200 to $500 a game. Sometimes you had 2 games a week. So it's kind of like an incentive-based package. One game you might make $500, the next game you might make $200. But not a lot of money, but you have a good time and enjoy Myrtle Beach, and it was a lot of fun. A lot of big-time athletes were down there that played with a guy that was played for the Dallas Cowboys. He backed up Charles Haley. He backed up Charles Haley in the '95 Super Bowl. He passed away. He passed away a couple years ago, but I forget his name. But he played defensive end on both sides. He backed Tony Tobert was one defensive end, and Charles Haley was the other, and he backed both of those guys up. He had the Super Bowl ring and everything, so he was just still trying to hang on and play and didn't know anything else. But anyway, going into that second year, that big back I told you that they brought in, it was like 250 pounds. Me and him we didn't know what was going on the next year, so they called us and brought us back. But when we get down there, we see a guy that just recently played for the Carolina Panthers. He played for the Panthers. He was a tailback at the time. We had a guy. He played at USF, and another tailback, Raphael Cooper, they brought in. He played at Louisville, and he played in the NFL. So they had recently been in the NFL, had been released, and come back down to the Arena League. So Me and this other guy came back in the camp. We was just kind of looking at each other. So, man, we're not going to be around too long. They didn't bring these guys in for nothing. So anyway, we go through camp, and those guys don't even hardly practice, so they're just coming in. They got their gold chains on and their Carolina Panther gear and just kind of chilling over on the sideline. They did, we're over here trying to make a cut. So we're scrimmaging and doing all that. The bigger guys telling you about, we had an old school coach too, man. I know I'm bouncing all over the place here. I'm just, we had an old school coach, man, who, he wasn't about that stuff. He wasn't about sitting out of practice. He wasn't about you played in the NFL. He didn't care about that. So, we was busting their chops, we were in practice one day and the coach was like, he spreads us out of the backfield a lot, and we run a lot of empty sets, and he likes his tailback to be as a receiver. So that big back I was telling you about looked at me during practice one day and he said, "Test it, man. It's a pass play. Get in here. I'm 260. I'm not running no pass routes." It's what he said. So the coach he had the glasses on. He just kind of did this, pulled them down and pushed them back up. I said, "That's not good." So anyway, they called his name out of the practice. He got cut that day. So the coach told him, said, "Hey, listen, I know you played here last year. I know you did well here last year, but I'm looking for a back that can get out here and get in some passing routes and stretch the field a little bit. But you have a good day." And that's just the way he was. So there's me left, and there's other two guys. Trying to get these guys' names that played. Raphael Cooper played. You can look him up. He played for the Detroit Lions. Played for the Packers.
Wow.
The other guy played for the Panthers. Now, he was pretty good too. I have to get his name to you later, but he came in and he wasn't there a lot. He didn't practice a lot. So I was out in a scrimmage one day, man, and this was the second year. We thought we was cut again. So, I was out there just taking a beating, my whole forehead bruised and everything. These guys over here chilling on the sideline. So come around, it was cut day again. So I didn't know what was going on. So those two guys are still on the team. I said, they ain't keeping all of us, man. No way. So they come around making cuts. They never did talk to me. So they said, so I said, "Man, am I safe?" He said, "Oh, yeah, you're safe." I said, "Why is that? How's that?" He said, "Well, you're kind of the guinea pig." He said, "They don't got that much money in you." And I said, "Wait." He said, "They're paying these guys a lot of money to be here." He said, "They're not going to keep both of them." So I said, "Oh, I got you. I got you." So anyway, went into the first game. This is what the coach said. It was the day before the game. He called me. He said, "I thought I was getting cut." He said, "Tester, stay back after practice." He said, "This was a different coach than the first year." He said, "Stay back after practice." And he said, "Can you stay back?" And I said, "Yeah." So I said, "Hey, I just want to let you know I'm starting you tomorrow night." I said, "Just starting me?" He said, "Well, these guys haven't practiced a day or two. I thought they was all done worked out a deal." He said, "Nah, you've been out here every day." He said, "I've coached those guys before in the other arena leagues." And he says, he says, "I got to have somebody that's going to be here at practice." So he called and told the owner. The owner didn't think that he was going to start me. So he called and told the owner, said, "Starting Tester tomorrow." They were paying these other two guys a lot more money than they were paying me because they had that big, that name. So she said, "Okay." If we're not, Marquette Smith was his name. He played for the Panthers. He said he actually got beat out at Florida State by Warwick Dunn. Then he transferred to USF, and then he got drafted by the Panthers. So he said, "So you're not starting Marquette?" I said, "No, I'm not starting Marquette." Okay. So she released him. So she calls me up and says, "Hey, Greg, just want to let you know." And he wore 22 also. That was my number. And they had signed 22 to him. And I wore 22 the previous year. So, I thought I was gone. So she goes, "Greg, I just want to call you and let you know you get to wear 22." And we released Marquette. And I said, "Oh, y'all released him, huh?" "Yeah." So coach said he wanted to go with you, but I knew the whole story behind it. That told him we wasn't going to start him, and she was paying him all this money. She said, "Well, if I ain't going, if I'm not going to start him, I'm not paying you all this money." So she released him. So, but anyway, you see the business side of it, a lot.
Yeah.
And but anyway, man, it was just a good time. We played in Myrtle Beach from March to August. that was your season during those summer months. And
Wow.
it was an awesome time, man, and just a good experience, and got to meet a lot of players. Like I said, the former guy that played for the Cowboys, he played defensive end for us, and just got to meet a lot of people and have a good time. Not make a lot of money, made some money, but not a lot, just enough to go out on Saturday, I guess.
Yeah.
I've been wanting to ask you this for a minute now. What was those 40 times in the bench press numbers at that combine you went to? And you remember?
I went to the one in Indianapolis. The one, it was mostly for D2. Not the D1 invitational thing. It was mostly D2 players that were there. D3, I guess. I ran a 4.51 and did 29 reps. So, that was the electronic timing system. When I was at Wise and on the stopwatch, I hit a 4.4, but on the electronic, it was a 4.51.
4.5.
So, towards the end of your arena football league, while you was in arena football, did you start thinking you might want to coach, or was that, or how did that play out?
I forgot to tell you, like I said, I've been skipping around, but the second year I tore my groin. Second game, we was playing up in Staten Island, New York, and I tore my groin, and I wasn't able to come back. That third or fourth game of my second season, after I tore that groin, and when I went home, I guess I just needed to get ready for life and start my career, which was teaching and coaching. So I actually started at Twin Valley High School.
So I remember you being there, yeah.
Come back, and you was playing there I was coaching at Hurley, but 2004 I started at Twin Valley, and I might have played another year after that when I went back to the Arena League. After that, I might have went back in 05 or 2003 and 4 was my years I played arena. And I started. My first job was at Twin Valley High School in 2004. I taught there a semester, and I was still helping Coach Hall at Hurley. And then I went back to Hurley, and they transferred me back to Hurley in 2005. Coach Hall resigned in 2006, and that's when I started coaching. So, but
I remember.
I was at the point in life, it was time to move on. But you still had that void that you got to fill. So it was with coaching.
We'd see you during the day. I remember having conversations, chatting with you and stuff, and just talking a little bit football here and there. And then, especially that last game of the year, though, we played y'all. Like, well, we'll see you tonight. And but I enjoyed that year. I remember going to your, I don't know if it's your classroom or not, but I mean, all the time members, we'd stop. A few of us, we'd chat and talk football with you.
Yeah, I think you and Baldwin, all those guys was there. What year was you then?
I graduated in 06, so that year you're talking about, I think I was a sophomore maybe or a freshman that year you were teaching there.
Okay. Yeah, I remember you and Baldwin, and I know that was my first year of teaching. I was just fresh in the system right there, and I actually remember Baldwin was I had inclusion in an algebra class, and I was struggling. I wasn't really good at algebra at the time. So Miss Ambergy was teaching the class. I was in there as an inclusion teacher. Baldwin was one of the smartest kids, I guess, there in the class. I'd always have to go over to Baldwin and get the answer before I could go help the other kids.
That sounds right. Yeah, he's yeah.
You said you started in 06 at Hurley. Was you the head coach?
I was the head coach in 06, yes. Big 0-10.
Yeah, I was going to say, just doing a little research I did, you started out 0-10. How did you turn that program around, and kind of some of the things you did to create the winning culture that you had, and I think they continue to try to go on even now?
Man, I questioned myself a lot. I did. I said, is this for me? You sit back and you look and you say, just because you're a good player, don't mean you're a good coach. And I realized how much football I knew at that time, or that I didn't know. I played the game. I knew my position.
Yeah.
I knew what I could do, but till you know all 22 positions, how to coach those 22 positions, that was a wake-up call for me. It really was. It was a humbling experience for me. like I said, I was questioning myself. Just is this for me? I don't know if I'm cut out for this. And I don't really know. I didn't know a lot of football. I thought I did at that time, but I first just after the season was over, I just had to sit back and take a deep breath and say, is this what I want? Is this what I'm going to do? And if it is, I got to figure this thing out. And I had to reach out to people. I had to go to coaching clinics. I had to get the right people on board and get the right people on the ship and establish a culture, man. And like the weight room was the biggest thing for me. We got I think we starting getting the kids in the weight room and get the culture going. Like I said, we were 0-10 that year, and the morale wasn't good. And we wasn't a really good football. We wasn't as bad as an 0-10 team. I thought if we were a little bit better coached, we could probably win a few games. And so, like I said, I just had to sit back and take a deep breath and relax. It was a reality check for me. And I said, man, I got to get better at this. I got to figure some things out. I said, I thought I was going to go in there and run an I formation and I'm going to win 5 games. That was my thinking. But it was way deeper than that, man. I had to figure it out, so, if you really want something bad enough, you'll go get it. And that's kind of where it was. And I really realized I didn't know a lot of football at that time. And so I just, like I said, I went to coaching clinics. I reached out. I tried to figure out an offense that not only fit our team, but fit our school. I think you got to look at your school and say, all right, what type of athletes do I usually have at this school? That's kind of, and I'm a wing T guy. And so when I was, doing my research and my clinics, I reached out to Coach Rowe, Coach Mance, just different people around the area that could help me. I traveled to these coaching clinics and tried to find the right scheme for us and just learn X's and O's and stuff. And, I started dabbling in the wing T probably a little bit after that, because I know we always used to have some quick backs and small linemen, it's the story of her life at a small school, so, I think the wing T kind of fit our system. And I think, angle blocking and, because year in and year out, you're not going to have a gunslinger that can throw the ball all over the field. Year in and year out, you're not going to have 6'4", 300-pound offensive lineman that can just maul people. So, but something we did have, we seemed to always have some little quick backs all the time, so I thought the wing T was a good system for us. So I started dabbling in it and just going and reaching out to people and all over the country, actually, that, I got up this guy who's been basically my safety net for years, is Glenn McNew out of Morgantown, West Virginia. And I got up with him and I knew about him. I'd studied him before I'd really seen him in person. And I probably knew about him since 2010, started researching some of his stuff, and then went and seen him in a clinic in Pittsburgh and got him down to Hurley, man. He started coming to Hurley and doing camps for us. And I think that's actually what turned us around, just getting that guy in and getting people in and getting people on board. And man, we had, after them seasons, coming up around 2010, we started getting a good group of kids coming up, a group of athletes out, it was the Coopers and John Lane and that crew. And I knew we had a good group coming up. So I think we got the weight room, we got the culture in the weight room established. We started getting back in the weight room, started having a lot more numbers in the weight room. So we started gradually winning, 2008, 9, 10, started getting some good athletes and just started putting things together. And I think getting the right people on board was the main thing. Coaching, getting the right people on your ship's the main thing, man. If you get if you get the wrong people on your ship, it's going to sink. So I think you got to kind of evaluate yourself and get the right coaches on board. And I think that's kind of where I was at that time, was getting the right people on board, getting the weight room established, and reaching out to people and trying to find the scheme that fit our school. And I think that's kind of the road I took.
This is kind of a quick detour off of not necessarily your career in Hurley, but I can't not ask you this question because we're thinking about doing like a thing on this coach, just to try to get some people on that have played for him or coached with him. But you had Coach Jones, Fred Jones over there for a couple of seasons, didn't you?
Ray
Good
Jones.
defense. Yeah.
Yeah, from Garden.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, we
obviously famous defensive coach around here. People, I mean, everybody talks about him, but I was just going to kind of get your experience with him and how great, what you, if anything, learned from him or what it was like working with him and stuff. Because we all love him. Everybody I know that played for him or had him in school.
Coach Jones was a great coach, man. I know he was on board with Coach Hall when I was an assistant. Coach Hall had got him over there.
Oh, okay.
Kids loved him, man. And the kids loved him. He kept everything simple. He was old school. And, he brought that intensity. You know how intense he was. You heard the stories of him eating the grass and doing all that stuff. And but he did not want you to give up a yard on defense.
Yeah.
And that's it. That was his demeanor, his attitude. And if you give up, he had extra conditioning for you or whatever in practice. If you give up so many yards and but the kids loved him over Hurley. Like I said, Coach Jones was back and forth, and I tried to get him back in 2015 and actually had him. And something happened with him. I don't know if he got sick, but he kind of stayed in touch. He kind of watched film with us, and he kind of played that. He played that coaching role from a distance and helped us out a little bit in 15. But I had him over early in camp, and I don't know if he got sick or something happened. I can't really remember the details, but we still stayed in touch and communicated. And like I said, I think he was a great role model for those kids, and just the tradition that he had over there at Garden, and they all knew about it. And the state semifinal team or the state championship team he had, I guess they lost in the finals, didn't they?
Mm-hmm.
State runners up.
So,
and his IQ on the defensive side was just crazy. What the guy knew.
I had to get your take on that because I knew you'd been around him, but I wasn't sure if it was under you or under Coach Hall. But
he was different, man. He really was. He was different, but it was a good kind of different. I think the kids responded well to him. They enjoyed him. He was funny. But like I said, I think he had a way to draw the kids to him, man, and he was really a genuine good guy, also.
Yeah.
Talking about your coaching career, one of the best teams I think to come through this area in a while is that 2016 team that you coached, and that was right after I graduated, and I was good friends with Tate and stuff. So me and Jamar both was at a lot of the games. That year, you all the highest scoring team in the state, all classifications included. So I just wanted you to kind of touch on that season because to have a team like that, we can't just go over and not mention it.
Just the athletic ability that we had on that team was astronomical. You had Tatum at quarterback, you had Zach Lester and Devin Tester at the wing backs, and you got Brady Justice sitting back there in the backfield. And how do you defend that? And
apparently you don't.
That's I think we had learned a lot as a coaching staff, but one thing that it's all about the Jimmies and the Joes. You can know all the X's and the O's, but still yet, those guys were the Jimmies and the Joes that year, and just the athletic ability they had and was able to score from any point on the field. With Tatum's ability at quarterback, he could throw it, run it. He could do a lot of things, and we could spread those guys out and get them. We could run any offense at that. We ran the wing tee, but we could spread it and run it. We could get the ball in Zach Lester's hands and Devin's hands and put them in space, and then you still got Brady back there in the backfield you had to defend, and it was just that was a nightmare for defenses to have to defend that. But it was so we wasn't really challenged, man. That was a 10-0 year, but honestly, I wish we had one on our schedule that would have banged us up a little bit, maybe a bigger school that we could have went 9-1, maybe lost one, and got us ready. Everybody says, well, that week's, I heard that a lot. That week's schedule got you. Well, you know what? That week's schedule, nobody was talking about that week's schedule all them other years when we were getting beat, also we had the lowest enrollment on that schedule. So, we were playing, every team we played had a bigger enrollment than we did. So maybe but Twin Valley, that might have been the only team, that didn't have a bigger enrollment than we did. But if we would have been tested a little bit more, we had Grundy that year. Us and Grundy, I think we were 6-0. Grundy was 7-0 going into the game, and the game was basically over at halftime.
I was at that one.
I think Grundy was even 2A at the time.
Yeah.
Then Honaker. Honaker's usually a challenge for us, but just so happened that year it wasn't a challenge. And I think, then we got to the first round of playoffs. We played Royal Retreat and had a big win against Royal Retreat. So second round, we had Perry McClure coming in. They were 10-1. They had played in that tough district out there in that Shenandoah Valley, or I think that's where they're at out there. And they actually had played. I think their only loss may have been to Rockbridge County, which was 2A or AAA. So we kind of seen on film, and we had just played Perry McClure the year before in 15 in the playoffs and beat them. And we were the underdog actually and beat them in the first round. So they were coming back to Hurley at 10-1 second year. So, and they actually had a tremendous game plan, man. They came in and they had a couple transfers. They had the big running back that transferred from Auburn. I think he may have led the VHSA on rushing yards in history. I forget his name. He played fullback for Perry McClure, and the size of those linemen, man, when they come up there at your line, I knew we were going to have trouble. I knew we were going to have trouble when I watched them on film. And, I think the score, what they did, they kept the ball from us, and it was a really good coaching plan that they had for us. I think we had 4 possessions the whole game, and the score was 27-12. So they run the double tight T, and they just would 2 yards, 3 yards, 4 yards, 4th and 1, 3 yards, get the first down, all the way down. It's just like we couldn't get off the field. But the whole time they were doing that, man, they just limited our possessions, and they kept the time of possession was double than what they had. And like I said, it was a really good game plan by them. I thought we went out a little early. Thought we got upset. I sat and hit myself in the head and thought I got out coached, and which, I basically did. Just the game plan that they had to keep the ball away from us. And a couple times I think we had a turnover too that maybe didn't go our way, but and a couple penalties. We got behind the sticks. And what I thought they did well, they tackled us well. Brady or Devin or Zach, they didn't give us that big play. They made us, you take it, how many times can a high school team start at their own 20-yard line and have a consistent drive all the way down the field without getting a penalty and getting behind the sticks? Not very many can do that at the high school level. That's what they made us do. So, Brady didn't break that 70-yard run. They got him for 5 yards, and everybody's like, what's going on? Nothing. We're playing a good football team here. They got him for 4 yards. They tackled him. They got him for 5 yards. They made us drive the distance. Then we'd get a holding call. We'd get behind the sticks. So we wasn't good enough to overcome those penalties and stuff that when we got behind the sticks and against that kind of team. And, and we had a few penalties that game that got us behind the sticks. And, the style of offense we ran, they just kind of kept us in front of them, didn't let us have the big play. We didn't have no 70-yard touchdowns that we were used to. We didn't have no 60-yard. They kept us contained where we had to constantly drive the field and kept us behind the sticks. So it was just a good game plan by them. And I think we ended up losing the game 27-14, 27-12. But I can't remember you can't never tell what's going through their head. But I think they were looking ahead to George Wythe also for the next game. I'm not saying that they were, but I think they'd played them the year before, and I think everybody was talking about the matchup in this area was us and George Wythe. I think they may have been looking ahead to George Wythe, but I think we went out a round or two early than what we should have. But like I said, it was a great game plan by Perry McClure. They came in and run the ball down our throat, 3 yards, 4 yards, just kept us off the field. So, but anyway, that team, man, it was. As far as some of the best teams in Hurley, I don't think you can put a skill set on the field ever again. That was that kind of skill set. I know the 82 team at Hurley went that was before my time. They went 10-0. They were probably a bigger, more physical team, but I don't think there's been a skill set at Hurley quite like that bunch that we had that year. And even the 15 year, we beat Perry McClure in the first round. We lost to Galax and went up to Galax and played them really tough. They won a state championship that year. I think they beat us 28-21 or 28-14, and they went on to win a state title that year. So, that was a kind of a defining moment for our program, I think, when we played Galax, even though we lost a game from going, from where we started from 0-10 and then playing the eventual state champions 28-14 and in a game. I think that was one of the even though we lost, I think that was one of the final moments of our program and where we got it to. And then the next year was when Perry McClure came in and beat us in the second round with those guys. Yeah. So, but as like I said, it's a really good team, man. That's a generational team. You don't get those teams often, especially at a school with 190 kids, so, but yeah, those are some good years.
I think that as far as skill set goes, like you mentioned, I think it's one of the better skill sets we've seen in Southwest Virginia. Right. From the quarterback to or each back that you had.
Yeah.
Really, if you would have placed either one of them on any team, they could have had the numbers that like Brady had. I think Brady had close to 2,000 yards that year.
No, he had over 2,000. I think he had 2,200.
Yeah, and that's with Zach and everybody else putting up numbers too.
And nobody understood. Nobody understood that. You got all these records and all these numbers in the county and stuff. Nobody knew the amount of carries that those kids had and what they did with those amount of carries.
Yeah.
Brady had averaged 12 carries a game and had over 2,000 yards. Zach and Devin averaged 7 carries a game and had over 1,000 yards. Zach and Devin,
that's crazy.
Their average yard per carry was well over 10. And, when you have all these, you look at all these records and stuff, these counties and stuff that you look and this guy had 2,800 yards rushing, or this guy in the county had 2,500 yards rushing on 600 and some attempts or 400 and some attempts. And these kids didn't even have 100 attempts, like that's Zach Lester. He had 67 carries that year. Zach Lester had 67 carries for 11 or 1,200 yards on 67 carries. Devin had like 89 carries for 12 or 1,300 yards. And Brady had like 150. And he was well over 2,000. Yeah. Then you got Tate and threw for 1,000 that year.
Yeah.
So
that's remarkable. Yeah. And I've not heard it broke down like that. I never even thought of that. But that's before I guess just to kind of close out your coaching career, you touched on a little bit earlier why you decided to hang it up. How was that moment with that decision and having to kind of talk to your team and go through all that?
Well, coaching's kind of a grind, man, and it really is. And I know y'all know, what coaches go through, and if you do it the right way, it's a year-round job. And just the constant grind of and I don't see how these coaches, some of these coaches do it 20 and 30 years, without taking continuously, like Doug Hubbard just retired not a few years ago. I don't see how he did it for that long and just continuously just to continue grinding. I mean, we love football, but at some point, man, you got to kind of relax. And, my kids came along and, my coaching career wasn't as, quite as long as a lot around here. You take the Hubbards, the Collies, the Greg Rose, and, but, I don't think I'm finished either. I'm going to get back in it. So I kind of wanted to have a breaking point, and, my kids are coming. Tyson was coming at Wise Central. So I kind of wanted, hey, I'm going to be a parent. I'm going to sit in the stands until I got asked to come and help be an assistant, and had 3 great years over there at Fluke Ones. And we won a lot of good ball games and a lot of good football over there in the Mountain 7. And I really enjoyed my time at Wise, helping Coach Tyson and helping Coach Owens over there. That was one of my best memories in football, is being over there with him and going and playing the Unions and the Ridgeviews and playing the Ridgeview up there. I guess it was their sophomore year when we knocked them off up there, and they was the number 1 seed, and just playing Graham in the regional title game and some good football over there. And I really enjoyed it, but just, it's a different role as a head coach, man, you got just a lot more on your plate. You can kind of just coach football and not worry about all the politics and all the outside noise, as an assistant. And I kind of enjoyed my role with Wise at that time because I got to really sit down and coach and help, definitely on the offensive side of the football, and not have to worry about everything else. And like I said, I really enjoyed my time over there with that. Then, after he graduated, I still got my little one. I just needed a break and just to help trying to coach my kids. And I kind of want to, kind of watch them come up, and hopefully, if they get this new school going, might try to jump back in there if we can get something going or whatever's going to happen with it. I'm not sure. So,
yeah, that was going to be one of our questions, was if you was going to consider doing it again. So, like, a lot of people was going to be excited to hear that.
Absolutely, man. I love it. Once it's in you, it's in you. Like I said, I want to take a break with my kids and get back in it in the right time. And, if, I don't know what's going to happen with the consolidation, but you hear it's coming, you hear it's not coming. But, we got like I said, we got a good group of kids at Hurley that, I'm coaching right now at the 6th and 7th grade level that I'm excited about. I'm really excited about them. And,
Awesome.
Whether it's at the new school or whether it's at Hurley, so I'd like to get back into it then.
Yeah.
We asked Coach Krieger this, and I won't ask you about your own players, but as a player and then as a coach, who was the toughest opponent? Like, as far, not opponent team wise, but who was the best player you played against as a player, and who's the best player you coached against in your time coaching?
I played against a lot of good players.
I was gonna say, you've named so many off during your playing days. I don't know if you can name one.
Just high school level, probably be the Joneses. Probably Julius. That team at Powell Valley stuck on the field over there. Rodney Mitchell was a fullback. Had a lot of good talent on that field, man. But I'd say, the Jones boys, Julius would probably be the most talented that I've seen in high school. As far as coaching, man, what's the dude that played for Galax? He wrestled. He went to Appy State. God almighty, what's his name?
I know.
He wouldn't know.
He played linebacker. He played all over the field for Galax, man. He was a state champion wrestler.
Was it?
He wore number 44. He was all over the field. Probably the best pure football player. He played defensive tackle at Appy State. Now, when he I'm sure he's graduated now, but when we played against him at Galax that year, he played center. He played H-back. They lined him up at wide receiver. He returned punts.
Wow.
And they lined and on defense, he was a linebacker, safety. He could play everything.
Yeah.
And he was probably about 220. What was his name, man?
Yeah. That's wild.
It'll come to me later, but he was about 220, and he was the best player I ever coached against.
Yeah.
Definitely. So
before we get you out of here, I did want to ask you, I don't want to get into the whole departure of the head coach over there, but I do want to ask you about Zach Deal and how he did in his first win. And then I know we're 2 games into it now, but I thought it was very impressive how he responded, taking on that role. And first game, I think, winning against Thomas Walker, if I remember right.
It was, and Zach was already on the staff helping Hurley this year. And I actually coached Zach in 2014, and you may have played against him.
I did.
Good guy, really good offensive lineman, smart guy. When I coached him, he was very smart, very good player, a real humble guy. And he got into coaching here. I think he went to Bluefield for a little while and played, and he came back home, and he got into coaching here a couple of years ago. And we had him on the staff this year. And when Coach Justice resigned, that I just felt it was, probably his turn, and the best choice for us at the time was for him to take it over. And I thought he's been impressive, man. The kids responded to him. He's got, the morale's, pretty good right now with the kids. They're enjoying it. He went to Thomas Walker on a short week. Well, he actually had an open week. We had an open week, and then we went to Thomas Walker after the transition, and he pulled off a big win down Thomas Walker, man. And he here at Grundy the other night, I thought one thing I was impressed with, and a lot of people don't look at it, how Hurley was down 30-6 at halftime against Grundy. And I was listening to him in the locker room at halftime, talk to his kids about not quitting, getting them up. And they didn't quit when they come back out there in the second half. That's what impressed me the most. They were score for score with Grundy in the second half. And, I don't know if Grundy, thought they had it, let off the throttle a little bit, but I was just impressed with the fight in them. They could have easily rolled over at 30-6, but they end up making a decent kind of game out of it, 50-34,
Yeah.
And that's what impressed. The kids didn't quit on it. When the kids don't quit on you, that's something that you can hang your hat on, I think.
Yeah.
You can
definitely.
take that moving forward throughout the rest of your remaining games this year too. I mean, that says a lot about, like you said, about what he's got them playing hard already, and moving forward, a good sign that they'll be in. I think they'll be in some games moving forward. Especially in that single A playoff. I mean, they're not technically out of the playoffs yet, so they probably got a pretty good season ahead of them. I was going to ask you about
games left. I think the games they got left are winnable.
Yeah.
And I think they got Tulsa this week for homecoming, Tulsa, West Virginia, and they got Castlewood, and I think they close it out with Twin Valley.
Yeah, so I mean that's definitely 3 games. I don't know about Tulsa, but the other 2 are definitely winnable for them. So
yeah.
I was going back for a minute to your senior year at Wise. Did you what kind of honors did you get there? Like, I'm sure you were All-American, obviously. I think did Cameron say you were up for Player of the Year, maybe in that?
Yeah,
stuff like that.
I was a candidate for the NAIA Player of the Year, which quarterback from Georgetown College won it, Eddie Evison, which I already knew that. Everybody knew what he was when he played, and everybody knew who was going to get it. But yeah, I was a candidate for NAIA Player of the Year, and I think it was my senior year that I think we were 7-3 that year. I can't remember totally the honor, but I think I was a strength and conditioning All-American in my senior year there, and candidate for NAIA Player of the Year. But like I said, man, we had a lot of good players on that team, and it was a good year for us. And I think we had a lot of All-Americans on our offensive line and our defense that year also.
Yeah. I want to make sure I got your shout out there to make sure everybody knew. I mean, that's a huge deal. I mean, especially coming from our small town. I don't care where you go to play college at. If you're in a national conversation, I want to make sure people understood that. That's a heck of an accomplishment.
Yeah, and my sophomore year there, I think maybe my sophomore year and her senior year was her best 2 years. And I know people, I played with Travis Turner. Travis Turner was our quarterback my sophomore year at UVA-Wise, and he transferred from Virginia Tech. He came down my sophomore year. I think he would have been a freshman that year. He threw for like 2,000 yards as his freshman year at Wise, and then he bounced on us, and he went to Eastern Kentucky, and he had to sit out when he went up there to Eastern Kentucky a year, and then he played his senior year. He might have been a sophomore when he came to us, but he had to sit out a year, and he played his senior year. He actually played against Tony Romo at Eastern Illinois and actually put up better numbers than Romo did. But, that's just a shout out to another local player that we had on the team at that time that was really, really good. And like I said, he quarterbacked our sophomore year. That was one of her better years. I think we were 7-3 that year also.
Do you have anything else more? I don't want to hold you up too much longer, Coach. I know that from my end that I'm very thankful that you took the time to do this with us. It was an honor to have you on.
It's brought back a lot of memories, man. Just reminiscing. So
yeah, I could sit and listen to you tell him stories for a few more hours, man. I really enjoy it, and like I said, we really appreciate it. We both have a tremendous amount of respect for you, and think you're one of the best coaches around here, and we looking forward to seeing what in the future where you're like you said, whether it be Hurley, the county score, or anywhere else where you end up and following you on in the future. So we appreciate it a lot.
I appreciate you guys for having me, man. It's been fun. Thank you, guys.
Just so everybody know, me and Jamar is going to have our weekly episode later in the week. We'll cover the high school games and college and the UFC 294 preview. Mar, if you want to close us out there, again, thank everybody for listening. Thanks again for Coach Tester to come on.
Yeah, we appreciate it. We'll get you on later in the week. Thanks.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah. Thank you.